Are you wanting to move to the Seattle area, but you don't know what the best walkable neighborhoods are in Seattle? Well, stay tuned because this video, I'm going to tell you the top 10 most walkable neighborhoods in Seattle. Hey everybody, this is Tova Williamson, and I am a local real estate agent in the Seattle metro area. And on this channel, I shoot tons of videos of what it's like to live in the Seattle area. So if these are videos you want more of, go ahead and subscribe to my channel and click the bell so you'll be notified every time a new video comes up. We honestly get reach outs every day from people moving to the area, and we just love hearing from you, but we can't help you unless you call. So give us a call, email, text, whatever you got to do, because we got your back when you're moving to Seattle. Hey everybody, so this video I'm going to tell you the top 10 most walkable neighborhoods in Seattle. This is according to WalkScore. It's a website that scores all the different areas based on their transit, bikeability, and walkability. So this I'm going to give you the top 10 most walkable neighborhoods according to WalkScore. This also is a really good website to check out if you're wanting to check out the walkability of a certain address that you're looking at. You can punch in that address and it will give you the WalkScore for each particular address also. So just keep that in mind, walkscore.com. Number one most walkable neighborhood that WalkScore listed is downtown Seattle, which is kind of like a no-brainer, obviously. So showing the map, downtown, there's not a ton of housing down there necessarily. It mostly consists of the retail core, and there are some apartment buildings and some condos, but the downtown is kind of this area right here. So that walk score is 98. Transit score is 100, and then the bike score is 70. So this area, obviously, it's like super dense, like everything is around there, restaurants, shops. There's a couple grocery stores down there. So it is going to be most walkable. Parking is not super fun down there. So if you do have a car, it's better to just park it somewhere else. Downtown is like, obviously, no-brainer that it's most walkable. Most of the buses like connect downtown, the light rail stops downtown, so you have a lot of transit options in the downtown area. But again, not a ton of housing down there, so, and it kind of shuts down like after 5 or 6, like once all the workers go home, then it kind of gets like kind of quiet, ghost towny, and then some of the more like unsavory activities come out at night. There's not a huge like nightclub scene in the downtown area either, so living down there after dark, it can get a little, iffy down there. So number 2, we've got the International District, also known as Chinatown International District. So this is just somewhat east of the downtown area. You'll see it right here. Chinatown International District. So this area has mostly, again, apartments and where did it go? There it is. So yeah, kind of right here by I-5, just south of downtown, mostly going to be apartments and condos. Not a ton of single family houses down there. But there's a really great grocery store there, Awajimaya, which is this like huge Asian grocery store. They have like all sorts of food and just different restaurants in there, like Chinese, Korean, Hawaiian, just all these different really good restaurants. So it's a really good place to go for lunch and just to get like really cool different things that you're not going to find at like a traditional grocery store. So yeah, the walk score in the International District is 98, transit score is 100, bike score is 83, so slightly better for bike score for whatever reason. But again, a lot of public transit down there and a lot of light rail. The light rail stops right there. One thing about Seattle, the Chinatown International District, is the crime there has kind of gone up lately, especially since COVID. The Seattle Police Department just put out a new crime stat for last year for 2021. And the International District scored pretty high on the crime and violent crime. So it's one of those neighborhoods that has just, the past year or two, it's kind of been hit pretty hard with COVID. A lot of shops have closed down and stuff. So it's gotten a little less safe because there's not as much like activity going on there. So just something to keep in mind for that area. Number 3 is Belltown. So Belltown's right here, just north of downtown. It kind of sandwiches in between Queen Anne and downtown. So Belltown's one of like the older, like original Seattle neighborhoods. Their walk score is 98, transit's 97, bike score is 76. Again, most buses like pass through Belltown. Mostly going to find apartments and condos here, no single family in this area. There's like smaller, older apartment buildings and condo buildings, and then there's like luxury high rises too. There's been a lot of growth in that area. So Belltown's another one that on the you know, the crime map is kind of a little bit higher for crime and violent crime. There is along like first and second, there's quite a bit of like bars and nighttime activity. So if you live in that area, just be prepared for that along some of those streets. Like you might get noise from people going out and partying. But Belltown, they've got a couple parks. There's this like really popular dog park around there. There's a few different parks. There's Olympic Sculpture Park that runs along the water in Belltown. So it is, there are quite a few parks. And then you've got kind of a Whole Foods, not a ton of grocery stores around there. You kind of have to go up either to like Queen Anne or South Lake Union. There's a Whole Foods. There's a couple like smaller grocery stores downtown. Target downtown has like a grocery section too. But you're mostly going to be kind of going out of the area to get groceries. But other than that, the transit and walkability is really great there. You can walk everywhere. Parking again is kind of rough. So if you don't have parking in your building and you live down there, it's kind of hard to park a car down there. So Belltown, number 3 for most walkable. Number 4, we've got First Hill, also known as Pill Hill, just because of the hospitals are right around in that area. So First Hill, let's zoom on in here, is right here. So it's just kind of east of downtown, right on the other side of I-5, just south of Capitol Hill. So First Hill has a lot of like older buildings, older apartments, some condos, and then there's a lot of like older style homes too, like single family homes. So it's kind of a good mix if you're not wanting a condo or an apartment, First Hill, but you still want that walkability. You do have some single family homes there. Their walk score was 98, transit score was 98, bike score 79. So also, you know, still quite a bit of walkability, good public transportation. The light rail doesn't necessarily stop in First Hill. It kind of goes along I-5 and goes down this way, or it goes down through the Soto area. So you kind of have to walk a little bit. Also, what you can't tell on this map is it's very hilly, right? Like you're walking up, this is a huge hill up to First Hill, and same with Capitol Hill, Queen Anne Hill. There's a bunch of hills around here. So it looks flat, but I mean, you're looking at like some really steep hills. But there is quite a few hospitals here. If you can see, that's kind of like the central. You got Harborview, which is the main hospital, Virginia Mason. And then I think this is something else. Yeah, women's healthcare. So there's a high concentration of hospitals here, concentration of healthcare workers that live in the area just to be a little bit closer to their work. So it's kind of, it's a good in between where you get that urban life, but then once you get further away from I-5, you get a little bit more single family housing back in there too. So number 5 for most walkable, we have Pioneer Square. They scored a 97 for walk score, 100 for transit score, and 78 for bike score. Again, most of the buses like all convene down like in downtown and Pioneer Square. There's a light rail station in Pioneer Square. Even close to Pioneer Square is access to the ferries. So there's just a lot going on in that area. Pioneer Square is also one of like the original old like neighborhoods of Seattle. So it's right around here, borders kind of the T-Mobile Park, which is the baseball stadium, and then Lumen Field, which is football and soccer. So you get a lot of really cool old like historic buildings down here. They have like super strict design requirements. So anything that's like built has to look old again, or like all the stores have to incorporate like the older style of signs and stuff. So you still get that old town vibe. Pioneer Square, though, does kind of get a higher concentration. We've got this Occidental Park around here. You do get a higher concentration of homeless people in this area just because there's quite a few parks where they tend to go. So just something to keep in mind if that's something that you're not really a fan of, you might want to avoid living in Pioneer Square or really anywhere downtown, Belltown, and pretty much any of these places that I'm going to talk about because we do see a higher concentration in the city center. So number 6, we've got South Lake Union, which is just north over here. So this is Lake Union right here. Very iconic. The Sleepless in Seattle with the little houseboats. This is where you'll see a lot of houseboats in this area. So South Lake Union has really changed over the years. Amazon's like main headquarters are down in South Lake Union. So it's changed so much even in the past like 10, 15 years. It used to be a lot of like old, like cool buildings. Those have gotten like torn down and they're doing like high rises and more luxury housing just to accommodate a lot of the Amazon workers. So South Lake Union walk score is 94, transit score is 85, bike score is 80. It butts up a little bit to I-5, but you've got access to this kind of like water area here, which is a park. I wouldn't recommend swimming in South Lake Union. Some people do, but it's kind of gross. I would just stick to like stand-up paddle boards, and there's like a hot tub boat that you can rent on South Lake Union and cruise around, which is pretty fun. So I'd stick to like boats and things like that and probably not swim in that water because it's not very nice. But again, there's a ton of restaurants down here. Amazon is not back working in office right now. It's still working remote. So it's kind of been this weird mix. Like a lot of places and restaurants have closed, places that relied on the Amazon like workforce to stay open for lunches and stuff. So a lot of places have kind of closed. It's kind of like in this weird time right now. But there is still construction happening, still a lot of new high rises being built. There is South Lake Union is also home to the little trolley that goes up along the water over here, and it kind of goes down here. I honestly don't even know entirely where it goes. It's a really short route, but it's called South Lake Union Trolley. You'll see people with shirts saying slut across them with like South Lake Union Trolley. That's what they're talking about. I don't know if they like did that on purpose or what. They didn't really think about the acronym there, but
is that true?
So you'll see people like mentioning that, and that's what they're talking about, the South Lake Union Trolley. So yeah, this neighborhood's kind of like in transition. Again, typically when Amazon was like in office and people are working, it would be like crazy full of people during the daytime. And then at night, it kind of just like same thing, kind of a ghost town. Everybody leaves work. There's a few random like bars and stuff, but it's just kind of like in between, but all going to be condos and apartments, no single family really anywhere around here. If there are, they've all been like torn down and to build new high rises. So number 7, we've got Yesler Terrace, which is this really small, tiny little area right here. It was traditionally built as a 22-acre public housing development back in like the 40s. So it's traditionally been just low-income housing and subsidized housing, but recently that has changed. The city has sold some of it to private developers to develop some land there. So there's just been this big transition in this area where a lot of people have been displaced because they had to like fix some of this housing. It was running down and they didn't have the money to do it. That's why they sold it to private developers. But that's part of the stipulation is they have to make some affordable housing in there. So there still is subsidized housing and discounted like affordable housing, but now there's some new housing being built that's market rate, which is very different, is a lot more expensive than some of the subsidized housing. So it's just this kind of small little area. Their walk score is 94, transit score is 98, and bike score is 79. Again, because it's just kind of tucked in between downtown and First Hill and kind of Pioneer Square, it's just really central to everything. And so you get really good transit in that area. They just did build a new park also too in the area as part of like their revamped revitalization, I guess, of the area. It's this new like stepped park that looks out onto the water. That's kind of nice, but it did unfortunately displace people when building this and changing all of this. So it's kind of this small little area and community that's going through a lot of changes right now. Number 8 is U District, University District. This area is like one of the only that's not in this kind of downtown area. So U District is up here, which is around UW, University of Washington. There's a spot called the Ave, which is kind of like the main drag where all the shops and restaurants and stuff are. In this area, you're mostly going to have, there's a lot of like university housing, a lot of rentals. You have like frat row, which is like all of the fraternity houses. And then further up, you do get some of the cool, big, old like houses from like the 20s that are just like the really cool, like stately looking homes. So you get a mix of it there. University District's walk score is 93, transit is 81, bike score is 87. So there is a light rail stop that comes up to the U District, which really connects it, which has been really great because it does connect it to the rest of the city. Before that, I mean, it was kind of, you just see like you have to cross bridges and water to get there, and there's all these little roads. So before the light rail, it wasn't super accessible from downtown. It was kind of like a long way up there, but it's gotten a lot better just having that light rail. And then if you're kind of just staying within your own little area up here, it's pretty walkable. Like you can just walk to the different shops. I will say this area, nothing bad about it, but it is like the university area. So if you're, you know, older, past your college years, maybe want a little more quiet area, may not be the area for you. It gets pretty rowdy on the weekends, you know, just what you did in college, nothing wrong with that, but not for everybody. But it is still one of the top walkable areas in Seattle. Number 9, we've got Capitol Hill. So that's back down south right around here. It's just kind of like northeast of downtown. Capitol Hill encompasses a pretty big area. You've got Volunteer Park up here, which is a really nice big park. And then you've got this Cal Anderson Park here, which you heard about it in the news a couple of years ago. This is kind of the area that Chop Chaz area was, where people kind of barricaded off. It's all gone now. It's, you know, back to its normal deal, but that's where that was. Capitol Hill's walk score is 93, transit is 76, bike score is 84. So again, it does have a light rail station that just opened up. But before that, it was just buses, and there was maybe like 2 or 3 buses that would come from downtown. I think that's why their transit score is a little bit lower, because it's just not quite as central as downtown and some of those other areas like in Belltown. But Capitol Hill, you're going to see a ton of apartments, a ton of condos, ranging anywhere from like old, cool, like old school buildings to like the new high-end luxury ones, to the micro apartments where there's, you know, you see them, there's like, they're tiny and whatever. So Capitol Hill, and then you have single family homes once you come out from Broadway, which is kind of like the main drag of Capitol Hill. The further out you get over here, a couple blocks, it gets a lot more like residential, a little more quiet, a little less hustle and bustle. And more single family homes. Up here by Volunteer Park, kind of this like northern end of Capitol Hill, is a lot more quiet, a lot more mellow. And you've got just like these big, amazing, like stately homes up there. It's just really fun to kind of go walk around and just look at these awesome houses. So you do get a pretty good mix of housing in Capitol Hill. You've got a couple different, Broadway's the main drag, but then there's a couple along Summit. There's some restaurants, and then like Pike and Pine here is kind of where a lot of the bars and clubs and certain things are. So if you're into like the night scene, clubbing, bars, Capitol Hill is kind of where it's at. Seattle's not like the most clubbing city in general, but for that sort of scene, you're going to want to be in Capitol Hill. So Capitol Hill can get a little wild. The further out you get from kind of these main areas, it does get a little bit more quiet. So you definitely can have like more of the quiet scene, or get like right on into the party scene too. So it's kind of a good mix there. You get like you run the gamut of all the different lifestyles there. So number 10, the last one is Lower Queen Anne, also known as Uptown. I think officially it is Uptown, which is the neighborhood, but literally nobody calls it that. It's Lower Queen Anne. This area has also kind of rated higher on the crime scene just because it is closer to, you've got, this is like where the Space Needle is. It borders the Seattle Center, which is this huge park where there's a ton of activities and things going on. So I think you just kind of get that overflow of some crime into the area. This area has seen like an influx in crime. And one thing that you don't see on this map and that you can't tell is Queen Anne is a huge hill. This is Queen Anne Avenue. This is a huge hill. So it really, the hill separates like Upper Queen Anne and Lower Queen Anne. So Lower Queen Anne definitely is a little bit more walkable because once you get up that hill, it's like you're not walking back down it after you've walked up it once in the day. So Lower Queen Anne's walk score is 92, transit score 69, and bike score 76. There's no light rail station in Queen Anne, but there are quite a few buses that can get you downtown, and then you can get on the light rail station from there. So it's kind of in the mix, but it does have a little walkable kind of area. And then just being in close proximity to this Seattle Center, you have just a lot of events and stuff that you're close to. So Lower Queen Anne mostly is going to be apartments and condos and townhouses. There are some single family homes. The further up the hill you get into Upper Queen Anne is where you're going to see more of the single family homes, but Lower Queen Anne is definitely more apartments and condos. So there you have it. Those are, according to walkscore.com, the top 10 most walkable neighborhoods in Seattle. Moving to Seattle can be tough, especially if you don't know the area and you're just trying to figure out where you want to live. That's what we're here for. We love hearing from you. We love helping you find the perfect spot to call home. So give us a call, email, text, because we got your back when you're moving to Seattle.